Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, every now and then someone comes along and literally just gift wraps you a wonderful little story that you can use in a video to explain all the things that this person should have not done. That's right. Occasionally someone will give us a playbook and I can actually play it back for you and then tell you, hey, next time all I need you guys to do is do everything exactly the opposite. So today we're going to spend a few minutes talking about shooting a suspected shoplifter, real life lessons in what not to do. Okay, before we get rolling, you guys know the drill. If you like this video, go ahead and click that like button. If you want to stay up to date on issues related to this kind of stuff, hit that subscribe button. Click the little bell logo if you want to be notified when we post new videos. And most importantly, let's keep the comments and discussions coming. Okay, now, for those of us who've been geeking out here on the channel for a while, and I do thank all of you for that, we have done several videos, real-life examples of people who candidly just crap the bed so bad that I had to replay it for you so that you could understand why you should never do what these people did. It's part of teaching you all how to be the lawful and responsible gun owner is to show you examples of unlawful and irresponsible gun ownership. Now, the first video, and we did get some material out of this, was Mr. Hero Delivery Driver Guy, a guy who decided he was driving for a large delivery company named after a large rainforest jungle in South America, who shall remain nameless, but who decided to inject himself into a confrontation with our guy Ralph and a woman who had just run into him with his car. Mr. Hero Delivery Driver Guy not only managed to flag an entire neighborhood and a park full of children with his firearm, but yes, he did get himself charged with not one, not two, but 3 gross misdemeanors. Our second video in this series was a neighbor of mine named Adam, not really named Adam, but when you heard this story, you know why I wasn't using his real name. Now, Adam had come upon a catalytic converter theft occurring in his driveway and had done everything exactly the way he should have done it until he decided to fire some shots at the fleeing suspect's tires, okay? Then we had an opportunity to take a look at UFC legend Cain Velasquez, who had an epically poor day after learning some terrible news about a person who had victimized one of his kids. And while I certainly understand where Mr. Velasquez was coming from, despite the allegations, as salacious as they were against the individual, it does not allow you to try to shoot him as he's coming outside of a government building and then get into a high-speed pursuit throughout the highways of Los Angeles in a scene something out of To Live and Die in L.A. or something to that effect. So, today, I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman named Patrick Lathrop. He is 70 years old. He's a resident of Gig Harbor, and he likes to be a hero. And this is where Mr. Lathrop now finds himself in custody. And the reason Mr. Lathrop finds himself in custody is Dateline last week. Mr. Lathrop, who frequents a Gig Harbor Safeway, was tipped off by a clerk that a couple may have been shoplifting. Now, let's back up for a second. Does Mr. Lathrop work for Safeway? No, he does not. Is Mr. Lathrop a loss prevention officer working for an independent company who contracts with Safeway? No, he does not. Is Mr. Lathrop involved in law enforcement any way, shape, or form? Well, take a look at this guy and tell me if you think he's involved in law enforcement. No, Mr. Lathrop is no different than just about anyone else of us that would go into Safeway. He was a shopper. Now, I'm not sure who the clerk tipped Mr. Lathrop off to, but for whatever reason, Mr. Lathrop decided it was time for him to be a hero, and he needed to go confront the would-be shoplifters. How did he do so? Did he just casually walk up and politely ask to speak with them? Oh, no. That would be far too reasonable. No, instead, Mr. Lathrop decided to block the exit with shopping carts and demand to see their receipt. Now, of course, the problem for Mr. Lathrop and his lack of detective training is Mr. Lathrop had, in fact, chosen the wrong couple. You see, the couple that he confronted in a rather violent and vicious manner was a couple who had completely purchased all of their groceries and just candidly didn't want to put up with any of his BS. The 40-year-old gentleman who was trying to leave the store with his wife, just minding his own business after lawfully paying for his groceries, essentially told Mr. Lathrop to go pound sand. A fight ensued, and of course Mr. Lathrop did the only reasonable thing. That's right, he shot the gentleman. Now, the good news is that Mr. Lathrop here is apparently a terrible shot, because a non-life-threatening injury was sustained by the 40-year-old male from a neck wound. The other shot, however, went through the sliding glass door. Now, let's back up for a second and take a look at some of the law and how it applies. We know under RCW 98.16.020, subsection 3, that we can use any reasonable, necessary, and proportional force to defend ourselves, somebody else in our presence, or the property of ourselves or others. Now, when it comes to property, we never ever get to use lethal force. We only get to use lethal force under RCW 98.16.050 and a litany of case law if we are in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury, somebody else in our presence is in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury, or a felony is being committed upon our person or inside our home. And we also know that under the first aggressor standard, if you are the first aggressor, that is, you are the one who instigates the conflict, you will in all likelihood not be able to avail yourself of any self-defense claim. So while you and I know that to be the law because we geek out all the time here at Washington Gun Law, apparently Mr. Lathrop does not watch the channel, or if he does not take notes. Because, see, after he confronted him, and obviously the gentleman did not want to show the receipt, violence did ensue and gunfire erupted. Now, under even the best case scenario here, lethal force would have never ever been authorized to defend the property of Safeway. A Safeway employee couldn't even use lethal force to defend the property, and it's their property. Certainly a third party has no right. So, Mr. Lathrop, you messed up royally there. But you see, here's the other thing, is even if you believe that it's smart for a 70-year-old guy to pick a fight with a 40-year-old guy, as you began to lose that fight, you decided you needed to escalate and use now lethal force. But the problem, my friend, is that you were also the first aggressor, and therefore any type of use of self-defense on your part is without lawful authority. Now, it's one thing if you just don't know the law, you don't geek out here at Washington Gun Law, maybe you're having a bad day or something like that. But, and this is what makes this story even more egregious, you see, Mr. Lathrop has a bit of a history for this, because just last year, while he was gainfully employed as a Pizza Hut delivery driver, he encountered a man who he appeared to be possibly trying to break into cars. Now, rather than mind his own business, rather than just call 911, rather than just perhaps make a commotion and chase the guy off, no. Mr. Lathrop decided he needed to confront him, and of course he needed to confront him with his firearm. What did that result in? Well, it resulted in Mr. Lathrop shooting the would-be car prowler in the chest. Now, charges in all likelihood would have been filed against him in that situation, but for whatever reason, after being checked out of the hospital, the victim went MIA and has never been found. Consequently, Mr. Lathrop avoided charges on that one. But, not this time, my friends, because the prosecutor has made it very clear, as has the judge, Mr. Lathrop is currently being held on suspicion of assault in the first degree and being held on $100,000 bail. Now, we talk all the time here at Washington Gun Law about what we have the right to do, but we also talk about doing the right thing. And oftentimes the answer to those two questions, what do I have the right to do and what is doing the right thing, might be different. I would caution any of us, especially when we're coming to the defense of third-person property, that we are injecting ourselves into unnecessary conflict over an item that is likely replaceable. So the bottom line here is that to be the lawful and responsible gun owner, you want to think long and hard before you go injecting yourself in somebody else's conflict, especially when it's over something as futile as property. Mr. Lathrop, thank you for giving us the 4th edition in real-life lessons in what not to do. Listen, you may have more questions about this or anything else related to your right of self-defense, and if you do, don't ever hesitate to contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com. Or, of course, you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, let's remember, part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.